Hey guys, if you are new in my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button to encourage me. Thank you.
All right, what did he do? In 1860, Gregor Mendel came up with certain laws that we now regarded as the Mendelian law, or you can call them laws of heredity. Then how did he arrive at this? He was able to put forward these three laws after doing crosses between garden pea plants. Note, for those of you preparing for exams, basic exam in genetics, they might ask you which plant did he actually use. It's garden pea plant. And he published his findings in scientific publication. We can summarize his findings as follows. One, he realized that factors retain individuality generation after generation. Why? Why do factors retain individuality generation after generation? Because those factors are passed down from parent to offspring. The reason why you look like your parent is because certain factors are passed down from your parent to your offspring. That's his first submission. The second submission is he realized that these factors, they are inherited in pairs, not one. They are inherited in pairs from parents. And one out of this pair will be from the father, the other will be from the mother. So like for example, you say you are inheriting FF, one of the F will be from your mother, the other will be from your father. And the third thing, he realized that one of these can be dominant while the other will be recessive. Those are the three things that he submitted. And we summarize the three of them and call them Mendel's law. And we are going to look at these three laws in a moment. Now, note that the three Mendel's law, they are what we now call, number one is what we call the law of dominance. Law of dominance. And the second is what we call the law of segregation of gene. And the third is what we call the law of independent assortment. Now, to avoid confusion, let me quickly talk about certain terminologies so that you can get this once and for all. What is a gene? Gene is actually that trait, character that are inherited from parent to offspring. Now, example of a gene. So, example of what we call gene is the factor that carries height, which we can represent as H. The factors that carry height, which you can represent as H. Now, this H, when it is capital T for tallness, then we are saying it is dominant. When it is small letter t for shortness, we are saying it is recessive. What do we mean by saying an allele is dominant or recessive? We are saying an allele is dominant when it is always expressed whenever it is present. So we are saying if T, capital letter T, symbolize tallness and small letter t symbolize shortness, if an individual is having capital letter T and small letter t, despite the fact that the allele for tallness and the allele for shortness both are present in one gene, the individual will appear tall despite having the shortness allele too. On that ground, we will describe the tallness allele as being dominant, while the shortness allele is being recessive. Now, the T, capital letter T, and the small letter t, the combination of the two is what we call the gene. That's the gene, the individual, the gene for height that the individual inherited from both parents. Now, you notice the gene is having the small letter t and the capital letter T. Now, the individuality of this small letter t and the capital letter T is now what we call an allele. On that ground, I will always say allele are alternate form of a gene, meaning we are saying in a gene you have more than one allele. Do you get that? So that is very important. Now, look at this now. When you now have a gene having the same allele, then we say that is an homozygous condition. Like the FF, capital letter FF, small letter FF. Those are homozygous condition, meaning homo, the same. They have the same allele. We are saying the gene is having the same allele. That's one. Another thing you should take note is the fact that you cannot have homozygous dominant when an individual is having two alleles in a gene that will always express themselves. What do you mean that they will always express themselves? They will always show in the individual. We can have homozygous recessive when the individual is having two alleles that for them to express themselves, for them to appear, the individual must have two of it. Like take for instance the tallness example that I gave, capital letter T, small letter t. That is now what we call heterozygous condition, or what is called an hybrid. An hybrid is a gene that has combination of two contrasting characters. Let's say brown eye and red eye. Let's say brown eye and yellow eye present in one individual. That is an hybrid. Let's say tallness and shortness present in an individual. That is an hybrid. Let's say being fat and being slim is present in an individual. That is an hybrid. But homozygous is when you have the same allele. You are having the same trait in a gene. Capital letter T for tallness. Note that the dominant allele are always expressed. Either they are present in homozygous condition or they are present in heterozygous condition. Now, a recessive gene or recessive allele must be present in homozygous condition for it to express itself. Note, the appearance of an organism is what we call phenotype, meaning we are saying if the organism is tall, if the organism is short. While the arrangement of gene in that organism is what we call genotype. Before I will continue, this is what I have been able to clarify. So let me quickly go over that in few seconds. We have clarified that gene occurs in pairs, meaning genetic characteristics are controlled by genes that exist in pairs called alleles. We have clarified that. Dominance and recessiveness, we have also clarified that. When two unlike alleles responsible for single characters are present in an individual, one that is expressed is called dominant. The one that is silent is what is called recessive. At the same time, I have said that genes that occur in pair of allele is only one that pass into a gamete from the father. The other one will be passed from the mother. We have clarified all this. And this random segregation is what we actually call the law of segregation of genes, as we are going to look at this in a moment. All right, let's continue. Okay, now let us go. Law of dominance. Law of dominance. Law of dominance is very easy. It's not rocket science. Very easy to understand. Law of dominance just states that every gene has two alleles that can code for a trait. Every gene has two alleles that can code for a trait. The allele that is dominant will always show, meaning will always be expressed, while the allele that is recessive will be marked whenever the dominant allele is present. So meaning the dominant allele will always override the recessive allele whenever dominant and recessive allele exist together in a given individual. For example, if capital letter P represent purple color and small letter p represent white color, the individual, look at this, we have purple color, we have white color. Now, if the individual have both purple and white, the plant will appear purple, meaning the P allele is dominant over the white allele. Now, if white must be expressed, that means the two allele for white color must be present in homozygous condition. You remember we've talked about what homozygous is. We are saying the two alleles are the same. The homozygous can be
recessive, you remember, like in case of this white, homozygous recessive, then you can have homozygous dominant. And when you have this, when you have both the P for purple and the small letter P for white, and the organism is appearing purple. This is what we call an hybrid, and that is what we call heterozygous condition. This is what we call law of dominance. It is called law of dominance simply because the purple is dominating the small p, which represents the white allele. That is why it is called the law of dominance. Law of dominance is very easy to understand.
Hence, in principle, for a specific gene, one allele for a trait is dominant over the recessive one. If the dominant allele is present, the characteristics the organism will display will be that of the dominant. The only time the recessive allele is expressed is when there is no dominant allele. Now, let's quickly look at the law of segregation of gene. Hence, a dominant allele is expressed even if it is paired with a recessive allele. A recessive allele will only be visible when they are paired with another recessive allele. Principles of segregation of genes state that homologous chromosomes separate into different gametes. Each allele has equal probability of ending up in any given gamete, meaning each individual has two factors for each trait. Each individual has two factors for each trait, one from their father, the other from their mother. The factors separate when gametes form. A gamete contains only one of these two factors. That is what we call the allele. Then at fertilization, the gametes fuse together to form a zygote, which now become the traits that the individual will carry. Now, one allele can be for tallness from the mother, the other one can be for shortness from the father, and the individual will carry the two. Then the one that is expressed is the dominant one. Now, this is the law of segregation of gene, meaning in a gene, one allele is coming from the father, the other allele is coming from the mother, and what is coming from the father and what is coming from the mother, each of them, they were randomly selected.
The next thing we want to talk about is the law of independent assortment. And the law states that pairs of genes separate into gametes randomly and independently due to random separation of homologous pair. What do we mean by this? We are saying that when an individual is inheriting 2, 3, or multiple characters from their parents, the way each is inherited is independent of the other. For example, we are saying if an individual is inheriting eye color and the shape of the hair, the way the individual will inherit the eye color is independent of the way the individual will inherit the shape of the hair. We are saying if an individual is inheriting tallness and body size, meaning being tall or short, being fat or being slim from parent, each of them, they are independent of each other. That's why it is called the law of independent assortment. Now, the exception to this is when we have what is called linkage, L-I-N-K, linkage inheritance, where you have these two characters present on the same point, at the same locus on the chromosome. Locus is where we have trait, character, gene on the chromosome. Remember, in my previous video, we've talked about relationship between DNA, gene, chromosomes, and the like. If you have not seen the video, I think you should check it out. Remember to also check out my video on linkage inheritance. At the same time, search for my video on application of Mendelian's law and how to solve questions based on Mendelian's law. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching this amazing video. I am so honored.